Good morning. Good work. Good work at being so quiet. We are going to sing for you. The anthem has become the gathering music. So Joy Came Back is what we'll sing for you this morning. And do listen because you'll be singing it for the opening hymn. Okay, choir. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. My name is Reverend Renee, and I am grateful and lucky to be your minister and music director. Unitarian Universalism is a tradition open to all people, whether you are religious or non-religious. We UUs have 7 core values at the heart of our beliefs: justice, equity, pluralism, transformation, generosity, interdependence, and love, which is the most important, and it's at the center of everything that we UUs do. We respect our connections to each other, to all of life, and to the precious universe in which we are but a tiny part. We welcome you, whoever you are at this moment and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. For those of you joining us online, welcome. We do love our Facebook congregants. Visitors, we're happy to see you. Welcome home. We would love to encourage you to hang out after the service for coffee and conversation. Members, I would ask that you greet our newcomers so that everyone feels welcome as we grow our circle wider. If you are new and if you are not new, please check out our website, uufayetteville.org, for more information about us. Later in our service, we will have a time where you're invited to come forward and drop a stone, symbolizing your joy or concern, into our bowl of water. If you have a joy or concern that you would like to share, we invite you to fill out one of the yellow cards you'll find in the seat backs in front of you. There's a place to indicate on that whether you want your joy or concern shared aloud. It would probably be helpful to let me know when you hand it to me if you don't want it shared aloud. If you're online, you may write them in the comments there on Facebook, but just know that those will be public. If you have a need for hearing assistance, our wonderful AV Tech David can help you with that. And children are always welcome in our service. And there's a staffed nursery downstairs available if you prefer. Please remember to silence your cell phones as we enter into our service.
Good morning. As I light the chalice, I would like us to read this together. And I want you, some of you know I've been a Unitarian all my life. We called it our affirmation of faith. And I have said it over and over and over as a child and continue to. And it also wants you to know that every time I read it and say it, I feel optimistic. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together.
Well, folks, if you hadn't already guessed, today's message is about optimism. And so as you have joined us, it occurred to me, either in person or online, it occurred to me that just joining us is an exercise in optimism, right? Just coming here. And this is an optimistic bunch, you folks. I'm very pleased to see all the smiles, all the optimism, especially in these times. We'll see more about that later. So I think it's appropriate then to open with a quotation from an extraordinarily optimistic person. And some of you, by the way, may know that I'm a teacher over at the Northwest Arkansas Community College. So as a teacher, I'm going to give you a little quiz. And answer will be given later. But here's the quotation, okay, about optimism. If you lose hope, somehow you lose the vitality that keeps moving. You lose that courage to be, that quality that helps you go on in spite of it all. And so today, I still have a dream. Answered later.
All right, for our opening hymn, we're going to sing what you just heard the choir do. Joy came back. Rise as you are able in body or spirit. In religious community, we share our joys and our triumphs, our sorrows and our broken places, and meaningful moments in our lives. Because love is what connects us. And love is made up of many, many different feelings and events. In this circle of care, we make space for the complexity of life, the myriad experiences that bless and break our hearts. The truth of human experience dictates to us that on any given day, each one of us comes to the table with hearts in different places. We love through interaction. It's in our interactions that we come to know the world and our place in it. Our interactions and our gathering is very important. When we gather, and when love and joy are at the center of that gathering, and when the outcome of our gathering is good stuff, it's a form of resistance. Fear and hate and negativity can't thrive. Where joy and love and optimism are the norms, fear and hate will not be planted and grow. We Unitarian Universalists believe that it is in the gathering and in the brave task of sharing ourselves that creates and grows trust and connection in the world. That this is how we come not only to marvel at, but to engage in the depth and movement of the spirit of life, of the human experience, of the interconnection of which we are but a part. And so, we must create the space. And we're doing it. If you have filled out a yellow joys and concerns card, you may bring it up and give it to me and drop a stone in the bowl of water by Doug. And friends, if you don't want to turn in a joys or concerns card, you don't have to. You can simply drop a stone in the water. Please come forward through the center aisles and go back through the outside aisles. Brenda, will you offer us some music? Beautiful, Brenda. Thank you. David, are there any joys or concerns online today? Not today. We are also, it says, anonymous and concerned about flooding in Paris. Listen. Doug, let's drop some stones for the joys and concerns we hold quietly in our hearts, because we can't share everything. And maybe a few more for the joys and concerns that we might encounter until we are together again. Thank you. Today, for our offering, I am really excited that we are sharing the plate with the NAACP of Northwest Arkansas. Let's take a moment to honor the ancestors of this fellowship. The people who first came together to create a home for liberal religion here in Northwest Arkansas, who worked to raise money for a building, who sat in committee meetings, who created bylaws, who chopped and marinated and baked for potlucks, who painted and weeded and pounded nails and washed countless dishes, who gathered to worship, to learn, to grieve, to heal, to serve, to make justice, to transform their lives and this world. We are the recipients of an incredible gift, an incredible inheritance, and a beautiful vision. Let's do our part to keep this congregation strong, vital, and thriving for generations to come, like NAACP keeps generations strong, vital, and thriving. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
Okay. Well, folks, as you can see, I'm here to talk about optimism. So, I got to start with a joke. A fellow says, there's an optimism club, right? Optimist International. There's an actual organization. Fellow says, I thought about joining the Optimist, but then I thought, what good would it do? So, all right, well, yeah. So, let's talk about optimism. And is it worth it, right? It's one thing to know about optimism, but should you be an optimist in these times, right? Well, yeah, we do live in difficult times. And every day, it seems, there are more problems. Thank you, 24/7 News Cycle. Yes, it does not take long for us to find out about the latest horrible problem that's afflicting the world or afflicting the United States or Arkansas or, whatever the case may be. There are international tensions. We're having strained relationships with U.S. allies, and it seems like the world is just a mess these days, and it's not entirely clear how we can fix everything. Domestic authoritarianism, many people are afraid that, gosh, we may have a much different type of government than we've ever had before, and concerns like that. And but you folks are a very well-informed bunch. Earlier I called you an optimistic bunch. That's very good. You're informed and optimistic. That's hard to do these days, right? And if you're not optimistic, I'm going to give you an argument for why you should be today. Inflation, prices are going up. Things are getting more difficult for the average person to afford, and healthcare costs are increasing, sometimes dramatically for some people in some states and in some areas. Free speech is being compromised, and this is kind of a depressing list, isn't it? Right? And much, much more. Okay. Well, so you may be wondering, what's all this talk about optimism? How can this possibly be? I can't be an optimist in these circumstances. Well, yeah. In fact, things are so bad. Did you know some people who used to watch the news can't bear to watch the news anymore? I know some people like that. They say, I just don't watch the news anymore. Okay? What do they watch? Well, anything but the news, if they watch anything. There's lots of people that say, I don't want to know. I go to work sometimes, see someone, hey, did you hear about that? I don't want to know. I can't take it anymore, some people are saying. In fact, fewer American adults in general are following the news all or most of the time. So here's a survey that goes back to 2016. And at that time, 49% of Democrats said they follow the news all or most of the time, and that's down 10 points. It went from 49% to 39% of Democrats, all or most of the time. But believe it or not, this kind of surprised me. Republicans have stopped watching the news at an even greater rate. They went from 57% saying they watch the news all or most of the time down to 36%, okay? That's more than twice as large a drop as what you saw with the Democrats. So even people that call themselves affiliated with a political party don't want to be following the news very much at all. And just so you know, I don't know if you folks knew this, but social media is now the primary news source for people, right? I remember the days when if you wanted to see the news, you had to be in front of your TV at a specific time, or you just missed it. Well, there'd be another chance at 10 o'clock that same night, right? I remember those days. But now, social media and video networks have become the main source of news in the U.S., overtaking traditional TV channels and news websites. More than half of people get their news from networks like Facebook, X, and YouTube. Wow. that's interesting. And you can get that sometimes just minutes after the event happens. And wow. Seems like if the news is, what kind of news, by the way, do the news channels like to tell you about? Well, the stuff that gets the most attention is the bad news, right? So if you're looking on your phone all the time, or if you have it set so it's going to put up little messages popping up about the latest news, well, it's all going to be bad. Well, maybe not all, but most of it is. And so you're setting yourself up for a flood of negative information, okay? Young adults intentionally seek out news less often than older adults. Those who are ages 18 to 29, 22% say they seek out news often or extremely often, okay? When you get a little older, 30 to 49, it's 36%. 50 to 64, it's 53%, so more than half. And then 65 plus, wow, 66%, okay? And so look at that difference there. Although I can sort of understand that. I remember back in my 20s, I just said, well, then again, we didn't have the 24/7 news cycle in my day, right? But they could be watching news all the time. You know, only about a fifth of them follow it very, very much. Why do some people avoid the news? Well, in a poll, they asked people, hey, how come you don't follow the news? A bunch of them said, news is just depressing. It's doom and gloom. They feel overloaded, bombarded by the amount of political coverage, much of it negative. I don't know if you can believe that. But the political coverage being negative, yeah, okay. How about news is untrustworthy? Many people don't trust news sources. And some people don't trust certain ones over here, and others don't trust certain ones over here. But some groups have spent a great deal of time denigrating and spreading the suggestion that some news sources are biased and all that. And so people say, no, if this happened, I don't believe it because it came from this source, that sort of thing. News takes too much effort. They see the news as difficult, boring, tedious, trivial, right? And I can sort of see that. If you don't know a whole lot about government, if you didn't take a government class in school or something like that, you might think, well, wait a minute, they're saying they have to do this in Congress before this other thing can happen, and you know, et cetera. And it's complicated, and it's difficult, so people just tune out. I don't know what they're talking about, so I'm going to go watch SpongeBob or, you know, something like that. I'm going to go watch something else, something that takes little effort, maybe a little bit of effort, but not a lot. News poorly represents people like me. There are a number of people in this survey that said they're talking about people that aren't like me. They're not talking about, you know, the poor. They're not talking about my minority group or, you know, whatever the case may be. Why consume news if it's making you look bad or just leaving you out entirely? Okay. So all that reminds me of Flaubert, who said, to be stupid, selfish, and have good health are 3 requirements for happiness. Though stupidity is lacking, all is lost. Right? So it's better not to know, right? Basically saying only the stupid are happy, right? Yeah. Okay, well, interesting. All that sort of flies in the face of optimism. You're avoiding finding out what's going on in the world, and you think, by that means I can be a little bit happier. Well, you know, saying the truth is difficult to bear, difficult to hear, is not something new. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said in one of his famous speeches, The Other America, this America that most people have in mind when they hear about the concept of America as you know, so idealistic and so forth. This America is overflowing with the milk of prosperity and the honey of opportunity. And in this America, millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But tragically and unfortunately, there is another America, And this other America has a daily ugliness about it that constantly transforms the buoyancy of hope into the fatigue of despair. Okay? The fatigue of despair, the opposite of optimism. Okay? Well, yeah. Despair, that's what leads to, I don't want to hear the news. This isn't working for me. This system of government or this system of oppression that they have in place is not working for me. It's something awful. I don't want to hear any more about it, that sort of thing. So it's nothing new for people to just say, I want to tune out. You know, the U.S. is almost evenly divided politically. This is a chart of the margins of victory in presidential elections. Now look at some of these, just enormous margins of victory. Okay, lots of people voting, lots of people just totally crushing their opponents and all that. But in 2024, the margin of victory 1.5%. Okay, so almost evenly matched, these two sides. I know everybody's thinking like, how can they, how is there another side to the, well, you know, there is. And that's a discussion for another time. But yeah, today Americans are almost evenly split between the two parties, the two major parties. 46% identify or lean toward the Republican Party, and 45% identify with or lean toward the Democratic Party. Wow. So this other America, right, the part that wants to do things and implement policies that we would totally disagree with, that's not going away anytime soon. The parties are about the same strength. Sometimes one wins, sometimes another. But yeah, so, which brings us to optimism. Optimism. Here's a definition from Merriam-Webster. An inclination to put the most favorable construction upon actions and events or to anticipate the best possible outcome. You expect the best possible outcome. By the way, this is their second definition. When I looked at it on my app, you know, the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the first definition I didn't like at all. The first definition was the belief that this world is the best possible world. I said, what? I don't know if I know anyone that believes that. This is the best possible world, right? Well, except for the modern philosopher Leibniz, who lived a few hundred years ago. He was famous for saying, this is the best of all possible worlds. Well, I don't know, maybe his mother believed him, but nobody else. And so, in any case, yeah, you're going to basically have a positive attitude. You're going to engage in positive thinking. That's basically what we're calling optimism. Okay, so, yeah. You want to be an optimist, right? Well, we're going to start out with some bad news, paradoxically, right? And the bad news is science has shown through a number of studies that at least part of your optimism level, how optimistic you are in life, is determined by your genetics, okay? And so they looked at 500 same-sex pairs of middle-aged identical and fraternal twins, half of whom were reared together and half adopted. So they looked at twins and to see what is the level of optimism of this twin and what's the level of optimism of this other twin, right? And if they had very similar levels of optimism, that suggested that there was a genetic component, because whatever else was going on in their lives, they had the same level of optimism. But they said, but it wasn't a complete determiner of genetics of your level of optimism. They said, well, it determines roughly about 25% of your optimism level, okay? So it's not, that's why I put bad in quotation marks. It's sort of bad news. You may not have complete control over your optimism level. So 25% determined by genetics, but that means you have the other 75% to work with. Right? Okay. But I got some more bad news. So We're going to get the bad news out of the way, and then we'll focus on the good things. Right? Okay. Bill Chopik co-authored a study that looked at 75,000 people, right? And he reports, optimism seems to be, and this is also something that was somewhat surprising to me, lowest during early adulthood. Now, I would have thought, oh, you're young and, you got your whole life ahead of you, you'd be very optimistic. I guess I kind of forgot how it was when I was that age. And I was filled with a whole lot of, I don't have any money and I can't do very much. Why not? Well, because I don't have any money. That was kind of how it was, and that's how a lot of people are in their early years. So Gen Z reporting lower optimism compared to older adults. Okay, but then your optimism starts to rise as you gain more and more abilities and power, and maybe get a steady job and things of that sort. Peaking around age 55. So those of you in the room that are 55, this is as good as it's going to get. All right. Sorry to inform you about that. Is this about optimism? I don't know. You should see the one about pessimism. Woo, that one's all right, no. So this rise is driven by increased stability, experience, emotional regulation, and so forth. And then, your optimism after your 50s starts to decline a little bit as people maybe face health challenges or reduced social mobility. But then it levels off after 60. Okay. Except maybe they didn't study people that were very, very on in years, but it may decline in very old age. So there's a movement of your optimism, right? For most of your life, it's going to be on the going upward, I suppose. So, how can you be optimistic? Science at present shows only that genetics and age influence optimism. There's still plenty of room for your decision-making to keep your optimism at peak performance level. Okay, so, but why should you be an optimist? Someone might ask, right? Why should I be an optimist? Because some people figure, well, if optimism is just your attitude about the world, okay, and the way the world is, why should I bother to be optimistic? Because that's not going to change the world. Just my being an optimist, things are going to be the way they are, whether I'm optimistic or not, someone might say. That is not an optimistic outlook. Just so you know. All right. So why be optimistic? Well, I'm going to tell you why you should be optimistic. Why you should be an optimist. First, optimism is healthy, right? A 2019 paper studying the causes of longevity found that optimistic people lived longer than non-optimistic people, okay? Optimism is specifically related to 11 to 15% longer lifespan, okay? Well, that's pretty good. 11 to 15% longer on average, and to greater odds of achieving, quote, exceptional longevity, unquote, that is, living to age 85 or beyond. Okay, so you want to live longer? Be optimistic. These relations were independent of socioeconomic status, health conditions, depression, and so on and so forth. So independently of all these other factors that might intervene, you lived longer if you were an optimist. Now it's starting to look pretty good. Okay, well, optimism is healthy, part 2. A 2019 review of 15 studies with over 200,000 participants found that optimists have a 35% lower chance of getting heart disease, 14% lower chance of early death, better results following surgery with fewer complications requiring hospital readmission. Okay, so it has some actual tangible results that are good for you, that you would want. Okay, well, optimism increases the likelihood of happiness, okay? And everybody wants to be happy, yes? Yes, okay. Optimism is a key predictor of success in both personal and professional realms. Optimists are more likely to set ambitious goals. Why? Because they're optimistic, right? They're going to aim high. and persist in achieving them even in the face of obstacles. Okay? Their positive outlook helps them stay motivated and focused, which often leads to higher levels of achievement and satisfaction in their work and personal lives. So you accomplish more, get more done, both in your professional life and in your personal life, because you're optimistic. Okay? So optimism pays off. Optimism can make you more likely to be happy. I say likelihood because it's not a guarantee, right? But it makes it more likely that you're going to feel satisfaction with your life. E.C. Karadema's 2006 study of hundreds of people, average age 41, showed that optimism at the core of well-being is strongly related to life satisfaction. And so his study, self-efficacy, social support, and well-being. Self-efficacy, that's your belief in your ability to overcome obstacles and get things accomplished. That's self-efficacy. And so optimism is one of the important factors that led to people having a greater satisfaction with the way their lives were, or we might want to call that happiness. Okay. Optimism motivates. Right? It motivates you to do what? To do all kinds of things. Optimists tend to engage in healthier behaviors, such as regular exercise. And some people are saying, exercise? Is that part of the thing? Well, you don't have to do the exercise. But optimists are more likely to go out and do things like bicycling or eating more healthy or going to the gym or things like that. And better diets, which contribute to overall well-being. And that might have something to do with why they live longer. It all comes together, okay? What else does optimism motivate people to do? Not just make yourself better, not just make your body stronger, but also make your country better and your country stronger. Here we have a quotation from Dr. King. Oh, by the way, that's the answer to the quiz that I gave you earlier. I think some of you may have guessed that. It's like, who famously said he had a dream? Yeah. Okay. So he says here in his one of his most controversial speeches beyond Vietnam, love is the ultimate force that makes for the saving choice of life and good against the damning choice of death and evil. Therefore, the first hope in our inventory, and by hope I'm seeing optimism, okay? The first hope in our inventory must be the hope that love is going to have the last word. Okay. Wow. That is pretty awesome. And yeah, I wish I'd been there at that event, but I was 6 years old. And in South Texas, so I had no way of traveling there. And optimism, perhaps, what am I saying perhaps? It is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s most famous speech, the I Have a Dream speech. And this, end with this because this is perhaps one of the greatest examples of optimism. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, oh, by the way, let me pause for a second and point out some things. What kind of difficulties was he talking about at that time? All right, so here we're talking about the early 60s when he gave this speech. Well, we had race relations was a big problem, a big issue, right? We had the Vietnam War going on, a war that many people thought was unnecessary, and they couldn't see why we were involved in that. And there were all kinds of other economic problems and things like that plaguing the country at that time. So those were the kinds of problems that were going on. Now, he did have one problem we don't have, and that is they had a draft also going on. And some of you here remember the draft, right? Where sometimes people would sit there and watch the TV and see if they were going to be forced to go fight in a war that they didn't want to go to most of the time. So now, on the other hand, we, in 2026, we face what I think is a problem that Dr. King didn't have, and that is an existential crisis about democracy in our country, right? Dr. King was worried that the status quo would keep going on and wanted to change that. Many people have a concern that the status quo could be completely upended and we would have a completely different form of government perhaps in the coming years. And that has a lot of people concerned. But for whatever the concern is, right, we need this kind of optimism. He says, I still have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. And that kind of optimism is what we need, because to effect change in our society, to make things better, to make things healthier in our society, we need the kind of optimism that gets large groups of people moving and voting and doing whatever it takes to make sure that we have a good outcome. So why should you be an optimist? You're going to live longer, you're going to be healthier, you're going to be happier, and you may end up having a much more healthy country, right? And those seem like some pretty darn good reasons to me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Doug. You know what else makes you happy? Singing. Rise as you are able in body or spirit. And what you just heard the choir sing, let's sing together. And y'all, go ahead and feel it. Go ahead and let the words resonate inside of you in hopes for some joy and optimism. Brenda.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm inspired. And I want to remind everybody, I've been getting this in every chance I get. I'm a poll worker. Elizabeth, I think, is here, who's also a poll worker. Vote. Please vote. And you can early vote this week. And I am optimistic because the voting has increased substantially, and the more votes we have, the more we will have saved the democracy. So please join as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Y'all sounded great on that last hymn, and way to watch on the end with the big slowdown. That was great. Okay. All right. And for our closing words, Doug?
Folks, I talked quite a bit about optimism, and I said earlier that this seemed like a very optimistic crowd. I want you to multiply that optimism if you possibly can. Go talk to people that maybe are not feeling optimistic, and not necessarily about doing any particular thing, but maybe they just need someone to show that they care. And in many cases, that's the first step for people becoming optimists, having a hopeful outlook on life. And for so many people here in the United States, they feel like they don't have a lot of hope, that the future doesn't hold great things for them. And in many cases, they've given up. So I know that as much as I can, I try to talk to people about having an optimistic outlook. And so I hope that if everybody here creates 100 optimists, is that too optimistic? That might be too optimistic. There's a limit to everything, right? But let's try to spread as much optimism in the world as we can, and see what kind of wonderful things happen from that. Thank you so much for having me today.